Good morning, Rabbi Yosef. Dear Belly, sorry, this one is not going to go on the screen for whatever technical problem. Mazel tov on the Simcha Yevamas. I'd like to send a huge shout out to the whole London MDY team, not mentioning any names in case I forget one, for the beautiful arranged Siyum. I've now not only been able to finish Yevamas, but I have a piece of Yevamas to cherish this accomplishment in shape of a life-size dentist doll in my dining room. Here it is, Benjamin Schwartz. And talking, what just happened? Here. Benjamin Schwartz. But you know what? This dentist, after the Siyum, he went over to somebody and he went over to Yossi Klein and gave Yossi Klein a $5,000 check because he was so inspired. Now, for all those who are counting MDY's money, they say, wow, $50 a person times 2,000 plus Ben Schwartz just gave 5,000. This guy, so MDY is down $50,000. If anybody wants to know on that Siyum alone, Shkoyach. My wife wants to auction him further, as she always gets shocked of the stranger in our house. Remember they made that blow the cut out of me, and I had it, and the dog kept on like jumping at it. Okay, fine. Do not put these things in your house. I guess she should have also learned Yevamas to get used to them. Furthermore, I would like to thank Lior Levy for the MDY hand and get-togethers on a daily basis and learn with Chevra on the sheer picture attached here. The mamish learning there was last night. The picture over here, you see the sheer from last night. May we all finish shots together in best health and wealth. From London, Aron Meislik. And here, do you see this one, Gary? You don't see this one either? The quick story is I got started by Eli Churns, who pushed me to join at possibly the best time ever, Daf Tes in Yevumas. After listening to a few daf, not Kesubos, Yevumas, skipping the first 6 minutes, I was hooked and caught up on the first 8 dafim that I missed, sometimes on 1.5, 2 speed. My day does not start until I've done the daf in the morning when I'm at work. Like many others before, I've been out of learning for many years. Along with MDY family, Yevamas was my first Siyum I've made on my own. Unbelievable. I made a Siyum on Bruchas for my father's first yahrzeit. You have changed my daily routine, and now I look forward to each morning waking up with a new meaning in my day. Even my kids are into it. Now, here's the story. And I'm going to show you a video. Not of the story, but we'll understand it. On one Friday night by Kiddush, I got up to Savri, Murunan, V'Rabunan, V'Raboisai. I'm just reading his thing here. And my 2.5-year-old gave out a daf battle cry. Ah! Again. Savri, Murunan, V'Rabunan, V'Raboisai. Ah. Are you playing around with my computer, Tzaddik? Yeah, do it later. I dropped most of my cup laughing so hard. I had the zchus to make it to Thursday shir in Brooklyn and the Siyum in New Jersey. I really hope to continue to complete shots with you the whole family many times over. Thanks again. Eli Gilden, the real Gilden with an E. So here's the video. Let's see if we could... This is this. That was the battle cry. Nachamol. Oh, you're able to see it. Okay, fine. The Rachmey Shomayim says we got our own parking lot. Here's somewhere in Brooklyn, MDY parking lot. And we found out that, I told you guys, Magen David Yeshiva is suing us. This is not it, but there's another MDY. They could sue these guys as well. They're not mamish suing, this is a joke. This morning after learning the daf, I gave my Gemara, it says, to a fellow member, I got to start Daf Yomi Kesubos, kind regards, Hill Gruber. So this is Rabbi, I forgot his name. Oh, he said it in the thing. So one rabbi to the other rabbi, that's a mamish Mesiras Nefesh, giving away Gemara, so somebody else should start. And then you have to wait patiently until the new one comes in. The Koilel is sponsored by Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. The Masechta is sponsored by Nishmas Moshe Elazar ben Natan Shalom and Nishmas Yosef Baruch ben Moshe Aron and hatzlacha b'chol and Yonah for my children. The Masechta is sponsored Jeff Rosner in zchus my son Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Sarah Chana Refuoh Shlemo. Panas HaChodesh by Lock and Lebovic families Lakewood NJ because Torah is the best segula. Panas HaChodesh. Didn't you also have a story that you made a lot of money once by donating something? Never. As a zchus for our children to be kadosh, you lost a lot of money ever since you gave to this. No, you're a vine. As a zchus for our children to be kadosh, safe, healthy, and happy, and Hashem loves them. Parnas Shavua. This is the last day. Michael Benchetrit. In commemoration of the week of the 10th yahrzeit of Rabbi Yosef Oziel of the Miami community who passed away on the 13th of Tammuz at the young age of 42. By ShaulE Wassertheil, in honor of his wife's first yahrzeit, 9th of Tammuz, Hoisho Eko Edno Tzipora Bas Reb Moshe Menachem Levi Aleh Shalom. By Aron Meislik. Here. Oh, that's the guy. Yeah, that's the same. Okay, I got it. Refuoh Shlemo for Yechiel Yosef Chaim ben Netty Neri, who desperately needs Rachmey Shomayim after the terrible car crash in Lakewood. What happened in Lakewood? Anybody? There's a terrible car crash in Lakewood. And for the Mazel Tov to Rabbi Stefansky on the new baby girl. I wonder which Rabbi Stefansky is. I know my first cousin Rabbi Stefansky from Lakewood, a big Talmud Chacham. All right, Rabbi Yosef, we're starting from Daf Yud Aleph. That means we're 10 Daf into Masechtas Kesubos. I'm loving every minute of it. I do want to tell the Olam, real quickly, that our MDY Koilel, we have 11 guys, and they take the test. They take every month 30 daf, and then they take 120 daf, and then they take a cumulative daf test every yontiv, every sukkahs and pesach, they take from beginning of Shas. The last test they took was 860 daf. So first of all, I want to say, I'm very, very proud. One of the guys got a 75. Now, if you think about it, 75 on 860 daf. 860 daf. I don't think I can get a 75 on 30 daf. However, two of the guys got in the high 90s. High 90s. It's not normal. 75 is be'emes. It's shleiki der chateva, 75. Think about it. 860 from brachas. They ask you questions all over. At least 10 questions per mesechta. It's hundreds of questions, whatever it is. So, it's a tremendous achievement, and especially what? Mendy, how many did you do? You're not saying. Okay.
Oh no.
Says the official Mishnah, sponsored by Moshe Cohen for hatzlacha with limud Torah and parnasa. Hagiyoris, a girl who became a giyoris. Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph by the Mishnah. Top. I know it's a little shock, but usually on Sunday we're on the right spot. Hagiyoris v'ashvuya v'ashivcha. A shvuya is a regular woman who was captured, and the giyoris is a woman who decided to become a giyoris, or not decided. We'll see in a second. V'ashivcha, slave. Shenivdu v'shenizgairu v'shenishtachru. They talk about this. Why does it say nivdu instead of nizgairu? The first one is a giyoris, so it should say shenizgairu, because it's a big mitzvah to be paida. This all happened. She became a giyoris or a shvuya. In other words, these are women that have a chazaka that they were nival. They were with somebody before, because a shvuya, captured woman. So, like Shmuel's daughter, right? Captured. What happened? We know the story. What happened? That's what the goyim are going to do. So, there's a chazaka that a giyoris is also a non-Jew. Mustama had relations before. The shivcha, also the prutzois. So this all happened before they were 3 years old. And we learned that the psulim come back. If they lose the psulim before 3, it comes back. Therefore, they have a regular ksuba. They're considered psulois. Now, if they are not psulim, so you can have a taina against them, and that's called what? A mekachtos, and the whole thing falls apart. If the guy just says, okay, I'm not married to you anymore, you don't get a ksuba at all. Shema Yisrael. Omar Avuna ger kata. What does a ger kata mean? Says Rashi that his mother shows up. The bezin says, please make my son a ger. There's no father involved there, because if the father, that's a different story. The whole family together is going to see soon. Ger kata, but bilan oisoy al das bezdin. So the bezin gathers, they have 3 people, and they say, okay, we're going to be megar you. First, of course, is a bris milah, l'shem gerus. Then the final step is tefillah, l'shem gerus. Ask the Gemara, Michael Mashma. What's the chiddush over here? The zchus uloi v'zachan la'adam shlei b'fanav. Okay, we know the concept that if I want to be kind of $100,000 diamond I found for you, I could do it because obviously you would want it. So if it's a great thing, I can be zechus for you. So over here, it's good to be Jewish. I'm being zechus for you. Tanina, we already learned this. What's the chiddush here? Zachan la'adam shalai b'fanav. To acquire something that's beneficial for the person, you could do. Let's say a get, which is not good for the woman, you can't do it without permission. Money, you could do without permission. So, Taisus goes into a whole thing here. Not the time to be ma'ir, but al regel achas. Zechia, to be zechus for somebody, comes from shlichus. It's as if we assume that you appointed me to lift up this diamond for you. Well, the problem is that a katan cannot appoint a shliach. Okay, so Taisus goes into it. The Rabbanan could. Okay, there's another problem. This kid is not Jewish, and there's no shlichus for a non-Jew. So it's gerusoi ushlichusoi baim kechad. Rishonim say it's like it happens simultaneously. Okay, says the Gemara. So what's the chiddush over here? To tell me that I could do zchia, I could make somebody a ger. Now don't worry about this. Some say that if you even find, we don't look for gerim. Bezdin discourages gerus, but if the kid happened to fall in their hand, let's say we found him, he's lost, whatever the reason is, we could do such gerus. The mother brought him, he's adopted. We'll see in a second. But that's all. What's the difference if I give this person, this human being, olam haba, or I give him a diamond? I would assume that a non-Jew enjoys that lifestyle, and now you're restricting him. This we already established that a Eved loves hefkeros, even though now if we mishacher him, we let him go, now he could marry a Jewish woman. No, he'd rather be with the zchus. Once he was over Averas, so it's not a zchus for him. But this child, this youngster, it's a good thing for him. Okay. We have to somehow get this message. I just had this discussion with my kid yesterday. Like, I don't want to go into the details, but like, you're embarrassed to be a yid. What's the problem here? Like, it seems like we're not doing a good enough job, some of us, to make it a zchus. It's geschmack to be a yid. What are you trying to be like the other guys? It's geschmack. Okay? Avakatan zchus uloi. Katan is a zchus, and he has to understand that. Le'er mesayeli. Hagiyares v'ashvuya v'ashivcha shenivdu. Our Mishnah. Perhaps we can bring it right from our Mishnah. That's why we brought the sugya to begin with. It says in the Mishnah that you have these three women that have a chazaka that they were nival, like yours, my love, that that's Bezdin. What happened? This Giyares, that less than 3 years old, L'chayra, Bezdin came and then for whatever reason, the mother brought this girl and they were toivel her with a Bezdin. So you see that we have the right to do it. We're talking about the father came. Who said? It doesn't say anywhere in the Mishnah who brought the girl. It's a story of a Giyaris who's less than 3 years old. It's possible that it's a typical story that the father came to Bezdin. The whole mishpach is misgayer together. And over here, every kid wants to be together with the father. They don't want to live on the street. Father says, I'm becoming a frum yid. Okay, I'll also become a frum yid. In the pasuk Yirei Hashem Aktanim Im Agdolim, so Rashi says we're talking about Gerim. Reb Chaim Kanevsky says that it's like this Gemara over here, Aktanim Im Agdolim, that the father brought the young kids to Bezdin. All right. Now, it's very interesting. I saw this whole long Ramosha about adopting kids. Many people who adopt kids, they adopt non-Jewish kids, Russian kids, whatever. it's even a problem sometimes to adopt a Jewish kid because they might somehow end up with their own siblings. So I saw some very interesting halachas. I'll share them with you. So first of all, you have to do a bris milah right away and have in mind that it's for gerus. And you need a bezdin that they're not related. You know what bracha you make? La mulas hagerim. It's a very long bracha. But you don't make the bracha lachnisa b'risa shalom v'ram avinu. So he says, Baruch atah Hashem, la mulas hagerim. It's a very long bracha. La hativim dam bris shilmali. In the bracha you say shilmali dam bris. Without this dam bris, l'niskam shemayim v'aretz sheneman v'lo bris Baruch atah Hashem chayres abris. So when do you do tefillah? You can't be like that Meshugana that put his kid in the Arizal mikveh and the kid went bye-bye. You can't put a baby in a mikveh. What are you going to do? So you have to wait until he's 2 years old. So that means you can't name this adopted kid until he's 2 years old. Well, if the parents really insist, he talks about it. Ramesh goes through the whole thing. Parents don't want a baby that doesn't have a name for 2 years. So fine, you could do it, but you say when he's like 2 years old, you put him in the mikveh, and you say, you don't say la'aviv li'imay, it's not his father. So you say li'Yisrael. V'yikar Shmoy b'Yisrael, let's say Avram ben, you don't say ben Avram. Avram ben his adopted father, you say. Chiddush. And then, finally, and this is very important, stam, because I never knew these halachas about adoption. You must tell the kid, Ramosha Paskin, some argue with Ramosha. Ramosha Paskin, you must tell the kid before he's 13 years old that he's adopted. Because, as we're going to see in a second, Omer of Yosef, Higdilu Yicholim Limchois. These kids that become Gerim when they're babies, because the father brought them to Bezdin, they could make a macha. They could say, I don't want to be Jewish. Comes out, Stamazai, wow. I could tell you that this man was up at 4:30. That's when he was finishing the video editing and everything, and he's here in the basement now, this early. Wow. Okay, Yosef Bilyag. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm saying MDY there's a lot of people behind the scenes that do tremendous things. A lot of people. One of them is Yosef. Yishkoyach Yosef. Okay, so it's just very interesting. You have a kid, a Jew, who poured wine, he works in the vineyard, and then when he becomes 13, he decides, I'm going to be a guy. So comes that everything retroactive that he touches is Yain Nesa. Azayas?
The same if you tell him like 16.
Huh?
The same if he turns 16, 17, and that's when he finds out.
Yeah, whenever he finds out. There's a Ma'aser Shahaya, we discussed this a few times, it was Kedai Techaz, it was Ma'aser Shahaya Panovich. They came to a boy and they said, we just found out you're not even Jewish. So the guy goes, okay, let me think about it for a few days. They're still looking for the guy. He never came back. Agreement also said that he had a friend like that was told, and he got up from Aish, and he said he told me he just saw him, that maybe he did become from, I forgot the end of the story, but back then that's what he said. Half of them went off. So they asked the Rosh Hashiva in Parnaj, he said, I don't understand. The guy's steiging away for years, and just like that, he says, yeah, but who was steiging? It was a non-Jew that was steiging. So the non-Jew steiging doesn't. So when I said this back then, but I want the Olam to think about the end of this. They say that the Bacher from Tifrach, when he found out that he's a non-Jew, the first thing he did is he took a shower in the 9 days, and then he became a Yid. There's a big tzaddik from Bnei Brak, Panovich. He found that he's not Jew. What he did was, before he became a ger, he went and he drank a cup of Coca-Cola because he had a bad hechsher of Landau. But I want the Olam to think about this one. The chassid in yeshiva, what happened? When he found out that he's not Jewish, before he became a ger, what did he do? He learned Kesubos Daf Tes. Oh, I ruined it. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So they say it about Rapinkos. They asked him, what would you do if you found out that you're a guy? He said, I would be marked a carbon on a bama and then become a Jew. All right, Zok the Gemara. You too. Eisvei. So Nachamal, they become G'daylim, they could be Moicha. And when they're Moicha, now the question is, the Rishonim talk about this. Taisus talks about it. What does it mean? Like, how much time does he have? He has a millisecond. So it goes something like this. Like, if he was acting as a Jew, like he's putting on tefillin, it's too late. Like, he has that millisecond. But if he was acting like a non-Jew, you saw it's his bar mitzvah, and he doesn't care about tefillin. This. So then he has time. It's already 8 o'clock. What happened? Okay. Oof. That's our Mishnah, right? We said it twice already. This is the third time. Gemara has a question based on our Mishnah. If this non-Jew, this girl, who we decided for her to become Jewish, we made her Giyars, but she has the right at the age of 12 to decide that she doesn't want to be Jewish. So how in the world do we give her a ksuba beforehand? It's going to come out, perhaps, that if she annuls her Judaism retroactively, then she just ate up her ksuba and she's not even Jewish. She gets divorced when she's 11. Husband has to give her a ksuba. It says in the Mishnah, she gets 200. But she has the right at 12 to go and revoke her Yiddishkeit. So what happened to the ksuba we gave her? And we're not here to benefit the goyim with ksubas. Says Gemara, you don't give her the ksuba today. You give her the ksuba after we know for a fact that she's not going to take it back. When she's 12 and a day, 12 and 2 days, and we see that she's still going on being Jewish, then you can give her a ksuba. Says the Gemara, but wait a minute. But she could still annul it then. No, can't she revoke it any time? No. Okay. If she acted like a Jew for one moment and she didn't do a mecha, that's it. Too late. Masav Rava. Elu nari sheshlam knas. So if a nara, 12 years old, had a oinus, they violated her, gets a knas. So this is a huge chiddush. Take a look at this pasuk. V'nosan, we saw this pasuk yesterday, but we didn't see the whole thing. V'nosan ha'isha shoichev ima, the violator has to pay lavi anayr 50 kesef. And v'lo yisi elisha, if she wants, he must marry her. And lo yuchal shachal kol yamav, he can never divorce her. It's not choyt niskar because she wants to marry him, if she doesn't want or not. But here's the chiddush. Since it says in red, v'lo yisi elisha, the pasuk is saying that it's a condition. He, in order to pay the knas, he has to marry her if she agrees. But what if it's a mamzeres? What if he violated a mamzeres, a nesina? People that you can't marry. It's also for him to marry her. So if it's also for him to marry her, maybe you shouldn't pay the 50 shekel. Habal mamzeres. Okay, so we're talking about the chiddushes in the first part. So the question over here is from the knas. Okay, this is a case of a knas. You see that we give a girl that became a giyaris, we give her the 50 shekel knas. Same question as we had before. Before we asked it on a ksuba. How do we give a giyaris a ksuba when she has the right to revoke her Judaism later on? Same question over here. How do we give this girl a 50 shekel knas? Maybe she's going to revoke her Yiddishkeit. It comes out that we just gave a knas, a penalty to a guy. You take the knas, you put it in escrow somewhere by the bezdin, and you give it to her when she becomes older. Says Gemara, same questions we had before. but she'll do a mecha and leave. She cannot do a mecha the rest of her life. She has one moment to do it. So we have a question from Ksuba. How is it that we give this girl a Ksuba? We have a question. How do we give this girl a Knas? It's the same exact question, same exact answer. Abaya lo yoma karava. The reason why Abaya didn't ask from Knas like Rava. Mendy's favorite line in Shas. How can we have a guy that violated a girl who's over Isser? He shouldn't pay 50 shekel because maybe she's going to revoke your Yiddishkeit. Too bad. Let her revoke your Yiddishkeit. Let him pay the Knas. He can't do an Aveira and say, oh, he doesn't have to pay the penalty because maybe punish him. Give it to the guy. Who cares? He shouldn't be running around violating people. Rava lo yomak habayo. How come Rava asked the question from Ksuba? He didn't say, I'm sorry, from Knas, he didn't say from Ksuba. Okay. We have a different reason. You can't just not pay the Ksuba. We want to make it difficult for him to divorce her. The official Mishnah sponsored by Moshe Cohen, hatzlacha with Limud Torah and Parnasa. First comes Limud Torah, you see? Limud Torah, then Parnasa. Hagadosh Shabal Aktano. You have an adult who had relations with a Ktana who's less than 3. The Katan, who's less than 9. In other words, these are people, kids, that are not in the parsha of Bia. The Katan Shabal Agdayla. Umuka says. So Umuka says we already had a number of times, but just to describe, it's a woman who lost her psulim not to a zachar, but to some object. So she's not a beula, but she doesn't have psulim. Kesubos of Asayim, the Remeir says not a problem at all. Since this katan who's bia is not bia, he's nothing, it's a joke, so she's considered a psula. Umuka says it's happened from a piece of wood, she's a psula. Masayim. I just want to point out a dig the Gemara is going to bring here. The Mishnah brings 3 cases: gadol on aktana, katan on agdayla, umuka says. They argue chacham on one thing only. Umuka says. Seems like they're kind of masking to Remeir in the first 2. Muka says Kesubos amana. So the Rashba learns, by the way, I don't think Rashi agrees to this, but the Rashba learns that it has to do with chen, how much the husband admires, loves this wife, and based on that he pays her a ksuba. Muka says has some sort of chesaron according to Chachamim, so he doesn't give her a full ksuba. Besula almana, if this almana happens to be a psula, we had this yesterday. Grusha v'chalutza in the Mishnah, new Mishnah. This is a new type. Yesterday was that these women, they were besulais even though they had kiddushin. Now we're saying another step. They had chuppah, but the husband Nebuch died at the chasana. They did a chuppah, she remained a besula. Grusha v'chalutza, again, she was supposed to be misyabem, and instead there was chalitza. Minan asur. Ksubasan mana. They only get a mana. So if they marry somebody else, because they have a chazaka that they are bu'ulois, they get only a mana. It happens to be, so they get a half a ksuba, they get a ksuba as an almana. Ve'ein lohem tainas psulim. Let's say she advertised herself. Everybody knows the chassan died at the wedding. So she's in the shidduch market, and the guy thought in his mind, he said, everybody knows that she was never with anybody, so she's a psula. And then he finds out she's not a psula. It's not a megach tos. You can't undo the wedding. You can't undo it. You can't say, I don't know you a ksuba at all. No, you owe 100. Why? Because they have a chazaka of bu'ula, even though whatever happened. Not like the first mission we learned today. But they became a giyaris, let's say, after the age of 3, where the psulim don't come back. So Meila, a gaya, has a chazaka that she's bu'ula, even though she's very young, and her psulim are not going to come back. Again, ksubasa mana. So the ksuba of these women are a mana, because they have a chazaka, they're nival, Ve'ein lohen tainat psulim. It's not a mekach. We turn to Amud Aleph on Beis, sponsored by Moshe Horn, in honor of Rabbi Yosef Oziel, the only Rebbe that was actually good at basketball. Can't wait for this thing to be over. Sponsored by Nisana, hatzlacha, Ruchni, and Gashmi from Rav Nakash, for introducing me to MDY. Omer Rav Yud Omer Rav. Kotana balag doilo osa mukaseitz. Rav says a gevaldik taina. What is the difference between a woman who had her psulim lost from some other object, or a woman that had her psulim lost from a katan? Isn't it the same exact thing? What's the difference? And we'll see there is a difference according to another mandama. Rashi brings that we learned in Yavamas that a kohen gadol is in fact aser in a mukaseit. Kohen gadol that's also an almana, he's also aser. We had also over there in a mukaseit. So memela, this katan aval agdoila, this kohen gadol cannot marry this woman, according to Rav. Now the Gemara just says, pay attention, that Shmuel wasn't there by Rav. They happened to tell Shmuel that Rav said this. Omar ein mukaseitz bebasar. Not true. I hold that since it's a human being can't create a mukaseit. He's not in the parasha of Bia. Nothing happened there. Zero. According to Shmuel, a kohen gadol could marry this woman. Some say it happened like this. They were actually fighting. There was a live argument. Rav said she's a mukasei. Shmuel says no. Mosav Rav Yishai, so Yishai has a question on Rav. Rav, you say that a katan that's less than 9 years old has the same halacha as a piece of wood. Gadol shabalak tana, the katan habalak doila. Here, you see, it says you have a katan. That's our case. Katan meaning a kid that's less than 9 years old. Umuka says Kesubos assigned the mayor. And then come chachamim. I pointed it out when we learned it. Come chacham v'oimrim muka says Kesubos mana. In other words, chachamim argue on one thing. They say that a mukas hates the ksuba is a mana. But what about a katan abal agdoila? Katan abal agdoila, they are going to agree to a mayor that it's nothing, it's zero. How could you, Rav, say that a katan abal agdoila is like a mukas hates? And a mukas hates what? Is 100. It says before in the Mishnah that everybody agrees to Remeir. There's no argument on Remeir. Remeir says a katan, the ksuba, a katan with a gdaila, the gdaila gets 200. It's as if nothing happened. Zero happened. Not a mukas, it's not even the wood. It's zero. You get 200. Chachamim argue on something else, on the mukas hates part, but not on the katan of alaktana, alakdaila. Omar Ravach Gomar Goda balaktana v'loy klum. It's garnished. The color of Baktana is 200. The pachas mikan kenoisen ezba ba'ayin dami. It's a mashal to a person that pokes his eye and tears come out. Nothing happened to his eye. His eye is going to recover. There's going to be more tears. Same thing with the psulim. If she's less than 3, it's garnished minish. It'll come right back. No. So we have to say, we're going to explain the Mishnah. That a katan that's with a gdaila, she has halacha of a mukaseitz. And what's a mukaseitz? Mukaseitz is not its own entity. Mukaseitz it's an explanation of the case of a katan abal gdaila. That a katan abal gdaila, the halacha is she's a mukaseitz. A mukaseitz gufa. Look at the Remeir. Remeir says mukaseitz gets 200. It's nothing. Chacham say you get 100. And Rav is going to say like Rabbanan. Rav fits right into the Mishnah. Okay, now comes Rabbi Chama. Listen to this one. Because the Gemara, until basically the end over here, is going to argue on Rabbi Bar Chama. We have a machlokes in a mukas eitz when the husband knew that she's a mukas eitz. A guy marries a woman. Before he married her, she said, listen, I'm a mukas eitz. Just like a woman says, listen, I was divorced. When a woman says, I was divorced, what happens to her ksuba? It goes down from 200 to 100. So if a woman says, I'm a mukaseit, I don't have psulim. So she gets 100. According to Chacham, according to Rachmey, she gets 200. But the machlokes is when he knew. The Rachmey medamila lebegeres. Interesting. We learned it. Perhaps we forgot about it. What happens to yesterday's sugi? That what? A begeres, a girl that's above 12 and a half years old, naturally she's going to lose a psulim. So it just comes out an interesting thing. I have to look into it. I didn't really look into it. But maybe I'm making a big mistake here. But all these stories that we had last night, Rabbi, Ba'alti v'limot sasi, Rabbi, Ba'alti v'limot, comes out that l'chayra under the age of 12 and a half. Because it was 12 and a half, she could say, she's a begeres. You lose a psulim automatically. Why is he running to Bezdin? Okay, maybe not. Rabbanan say that if he knew to begin with that she was a mukaseit, so it's like a bu'ula. And Mele she only gets 100. But if, says Rami Bar Chama, this is Rami Bar Chama. The Gemara is going to argue now. Rami Bar Chama says that if the husband didn't even know, it's a mekach. I thought that you're a psula, you have psulim, and now I find out that you don't have psulim. You're right, you're never with a man. It happened from something else, but it's a mekach. I don't want to marry somebody like that. You don't get a ksuba at all.
The cases yesterday, you never made the assumption that she could have been a mukaseit. You assumed it was nos.
Why? I'm asking, why assume anything?
The Gemara never brought that.
I'm asking, do we assume? If a begeres naturally loses psulim, so why is this guy assuming anything? It's nothing. Just say there's no psulim. I'm probably making a mistake, but I'm just throwing it out there. We have to look into it. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to take both sides. Why does your mayor say that so pashut that it's as if she's an adult and she lost a psulim naturally? Maybe he should say that it's similar to bu'ula. Says the Gemara, no, it's not similar at all. Bu'ula is a human being destroyed a psulim. Didn't happen from a human being, so it's very different. Why are you comparing it to bu'ula? Why is it mukaseit? Just happened, system. Nothing happened. Say that it happened naturally. Over here, some act happened. Okay, you're right. Naturally, if it happens naturally, it's not a big deal and you get a regular ksuba. But over here, it's similar. It reminds the husband, let's say, according to the Rashba, it makes I can understand it even more. It has to do with Bachain. Okay, so something happened there that ruined the psulim. He doesn't like it. No ksuba. Asks Rav Nachman, if the husband didn't know about it, you tell me it's a mekach and you don't get any ksuba. Here, meres mukaseit ani. Oh, so listen to the story. She says, I'm a mukaseit. And the husband didn't know about it. No. He doesn't have the right. He doesn't know what happened. But he's saying, listen, I'm assuming you're Zaina. You're Mizana. That's how you lost it. Oh, what does the menace mean? She's believed that she's a mukaseit, and he didn't know about it. Isn't that our case? We just said, if he didn't know about it, she gets 0. And over here it says, he didn't know about it, and then menace, and she's believed. In other words, she gets something, at least 100, something. Elo Amarava. Oh, I'm going to argue on Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama says, the whole machlokes is what? When the husband knew about it. But if the husband didn't know that she's a mukaseit, she gets nothing. No. Bein hikirbo, bein lo hikirbo, l'Rachmey Shomayim. You see, even when the husband didn't know about it, it's not a mekach tos. According to Rachmey, 200. Okay, according to Rabbanan, there's a difference. V'hadavei Rava. Says the Gemara, Rava took it back. Now, I just want to, before it's a long piece over here, at the end of the day, you see the Rava holds that a mukaseit gets 100. Let's see. It's a lange maise here. V'hadavei Rava. The Sanya. Keitzad oitzah shemra. So, this I just put in there. Ish nar psul. This has to do with before, because we're talking about a giyaris and this. I forgot to tell you that in order to get the 50, you have to be psul. Fine. You're not going to be able to read it. Maybe you could. But here's the parsha. A person gets married and he hates his wife. He puts a bad rumor about her. She doesn't have psulim. But I skipped around there. The bottom line is they found that he's lying. He has to pay a knas, 100, you give it to the father. Why? Because he made a shemra psul bas Yisrael. Again, he has to stay married to her, he can never divorce her. And then it says in the pasuk, and if it's true that she didn't have psulim, in other words, she was mizana, it says the next pasuk, uskuluha. Zok the Gemara, shemra, bala bezdin, v'amar ploini. You. He points to the father and says, you. She's not psula. If she's mizana, she gets a ksuba. Whoa. You have to kill her. You don't get a ksuba. If the zaydim that she's mizana, she gets skila. So we have to fix the brice a little bit. In other words, if she's mizana before they ever got engaged, then she gets a ksuba mana. You hear? She's mizana when she's mizana? Before they got engaged. And the guy marries her, not knowing this, and he has to give her a ksuba, 100. So Yosef Meres says Rav Sheshes, if a person assumed that his wife is a psula, and it turns out that she was mizana before, yesh ksuba mana. Umasar of Nachman. You see how long this is? We're trying to get to one point. The Rava took it back. The what? Hanoi says, tomorrow, we're going to learn the Mishnah, Amud Beis. That if a person marries a woman and she doesn't have psulim, and she says, you know when this happened? After we got engaged. Somebody's honest me. So, it was your bad luck. Your mekach, me, something bad happened to me. But it's your problem. Your car, the engine went bad. It's your problem, not anybody else's. No, I'm telling you, I'm going to argue, I'm going to say, it happened before. And you didn't tell me about it, so it's a mekach tos. V'les l'klal. Oh, so if you don't know about it, you get 0. Klal, nothing. So what are you telling me? You're telling me that if it's a mekach tos, he didn't know that she was mizana, she gets 100. Over here it says mefurish, and tomorrow you base on base. It says you don't get anything. Rav Sheshes said his line that you see that if a person thought that his wife is a psula, she turns out to be a beula, she gets 100. Vishani my mekach tos, and they explain, well, but we have a contradiction from the Mishnah. My mekach tos nami mimosai avamoni isla. No, it's not a kasha from the Mishnah. At the end of the day, it means you don't get 200, you get 100. That's the mekach tos. But you get 100, even though the husband didn't know. But the Amr is the less klal, and you're telling me you don't get anything. Comes Rava. Here's the raya. Finally, the one who asked the question from the Mishnah, it's a great question. Why? Because mekach tos legamri mashma. When you say the word mekach tos, it means you don't get anything. L'chayr, that's what it means. What am I going to do with this mighty shemra thing? This bride. Once I'm answering, let me answer it differently. I'll explain it differently. If the zaydim that she's mizana, she gets skila. If she's mizana zinsa mikara before they got engaged, v'loy klum, 0. Now you see the little dalet over here, and then we're done. Nimtzas mukaseitz, the dalet means that is the halacha. That's the Shulchan Aruch Paskini. If a woman was found mukaseitz, in other words, the husband didn't know that she doesn't have psulim, but the reason she doesn't have psulim is not so bad. Stop. She got a bang from a wood. Yesh lo ksuba mana. You get a ksuba mana. Oh. So this is Rava talking. And this is how he pasking. You get a ksuba mana. If he didn't know that she's a mukaseitz. But Rav is the one that said that according to Rabban you don't get anything. You see that Rava took it back. That you do get 100 if the husband finds out afterwards that she's a mukaseitz. Have a wonderful day.